Hello, listeners. This is 107.9 FM The Berg. Welcome to another segment of Fitness Friday. I'm your host, Meg Boschin. Today we're going to talk about the physical pillar of fitness. This is what most people think of when they think of fitness, physical fitness. But as humans, we are dynamic beings, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. This is why I am opening a yoga studio in the new year, to create a space where all aspects of our being are taken into account and developed. And this is not just any yoga studio, folks. I'm opening a first-of-its-kind AYAMA Club. AYAMA stands for Applied Yoga, Anatomy, and Muscle Activation, a revolutionary yogic approach to eliminating pain by optimizing muscle function. It's based on a physical therapy model known as muscle activation technique, which is what sets it apart from the crowd. My teacher, Yogi Aaron, suffered from chronic pain his whole life. When he continued his efforts to stretch it out, it landed him in the surgeon's office, where he took a sharp left turn and quite literally stopped stretching. And this is where MAT came in and eliminated his pain and led him to create a new method of practicing yoga that integrates the principles of muscle activation with the modern yoga poses that we've come to know and love. And with that, AYAMA was born. Now, you don't know me that well, but I can tell you I'm not necessarily physically motivated or inspired. I'm more intellectually and spiritually motivated. Because I'm a mental spiritual type, I need motivation in the physical. And that's what drew me to AYAMA. Or perhaps it drew AYAMA to me. I needed something to motivate me to move my body, and AYAMA put the why into my workout. People keep asking me, what is this AYAMA? I usually describe it by saying, well, it's a lot like yoga, only it's better. And then I started using the phrase, if you know, you know. Because once you know the principles behind AYAMA, you can't unknow them. AYAMA takes a bold turn from what most people think about yoga. For example, when most people think of yoga, they automatically think it's about stretching. And another saying that I use when describing AYAMA is that no stretching yoga. And it is that. And I hope people even call it that to remind themselves not to stretch and to pique the curiosity in people who haven't tried it yet. Like I said, I fell in love with AYAMA because it put the why into my workout. And my goal is to put the why into yours. The why and the how. AYAMA activates muscles. A muscle's function is to move bones, and it does this by shortening or contracting over a joint. There are hundreds of muscles in the body. AYAMA focuses on the largest muscle groups. The theory being that by activating the largest muscles, they can take on the workload and do the work, the heavy loading, the heavy lifting, if you will. When muscles experience stress, trauma, and overuse, they shut down. And the biggest cause of this is sitting. We are a sitting culture. We sit at school, we sit at work, we sit in the car, and we sit at home after work. What this does is it forces our lower backs to be in flexion for long periods of time, and it reduces the healthy curve in our lumbar spine. This may be why 80% of the world's population suffers chronic lower back pain. What are we doing to strengthen our backs? To quote my teacher, Yogi Aaron, strengthen your back and you strengthen your life. And I think anyone who suffers chronic back pain would agree. Eliminating that pain would indeed improve their life. And that's why I'm here. At this time of year, we tend to overdo it, subjecting ourselves and our backs to stress, trauma, and overuse. I'm going to share 2 simple exercises that will change your life. A popular yoga pose called bridge pose, one of the single best yoga postures you can do for lifelong back health. It strengthens the hip extensor muscles, otherwise known as the shock absorbers of the body. You guessed it, the glutes and the hamstrings. If you have tight hips, chances are it's because your hip extensors are shut down. And if you're like me, I spend a lot of time sitting in my car, driving my kids around, and I always feel it in my hips. I promise you bridge pose will change your life. It changed mine. In AYAMA, we hold these poses for 6 seconds, and we repeat them 6 times consecutively. If you're not familiar with bridge pose, you can start by lying on your back. Bend your knees and lift or press your hips to the sky or the ceiling, depending on where you're practicing, while pressing the heels of your feet into the floor. Feel the glutes and hamstrings contracting and hold, like I said, for 6 seconds, relax, and repeat that 6 times. Once you've completed that, roll over onto your stomach. Next, we're going to do locust pose, more commonly known as Superman or Superwoman. In this pose, we lie on our stomachs, and rather than putting our arms out in front of us like you might see Superman do or Superwoman, we're going to bring our hands on our lower back. Okay, from there, we're going to lift the legs off the floor and peel the head and chest off the floor at the same time. Keep your legs as straight as possible and point the toes. Your body will look like a boat, the emphasis being on the lower back. This contracts and activates the back extensor muscles. You can feel them firing up under your hands. We are activating specifically the longissimus muscle that runs along the spine and keeps your spine long and tall and strong. This pose also activates the gluteal muscles, which is always a bonus. Again, we're going to hold it for 6 seconds and we're going to repeat that 6 times. Do those 2 exercises every day starting today, and you will stay merry, bright, and upright during this hectic holiday season. So you can walk right into my new yoga studio in 2026 and learn a whole lot more about AYAMA and how to live pain-free. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Fitness Friday on 107.9 FM The Berg. I'm your host, Meg Boschin. We've been discussing AYAMA, a revolutionary yogic approach to master your body and live pain-free. You can catch this episode again at 4:30 today.